Hello friends, we're here today in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. This is one of the most amazing chapters in all of Scripture. I would definitely put it in the top 5. This is a chapter it's kind of long, and it really needs to be read and thought about and dwelled upon. And I would encourage, if you're looking for a chapter that you just want to sit down with some people and just try and figure it out and understand what all the words mean, I would highly recommend that you start with this chapter. So it starts in the beginning, and it says, I would like to remind you, brothers, of the gospel. The gospel in which you believe, the gospel that I brought to you, and the gospel that you're being saved by. Unless you're not being saved at all, you can only be saved by this gospel. Now what he's saying here is this gospel is the most important part. Not only is it the central part of Christianity, but it's the part of Christianity that actually brings salvation. So this is most important, this idea, and he has these bullet points. Now some people believe, and I'm one of them, that the early church had something that was kind of like the Apostles' Creed, and he's kind of going through it here, because I told you that Jesus lived and he died and he was brought back to life, all according to the Scriptures. And then he appeared to these people, and he appeared to these people, and then finally he appeared to Paul. And he says, and I'm least of these because I persecuted the church. Now, so what is the gospel here? Now, the gospel is it's the story. It's the story of the Messiah, the coming Messiah, the prophesied Messiah. So that's why it says, as it said in the Scriptures, it's the fulfillment of the coming Messiah. It's the proclamation of the King. And so he's saying, if you believe this is how you're being saved. So this is the most important part. Now this is the end of 1 Corinthians, and he's saying, there's this last point I have to make. You guys, if you don't understand anything else, you have to understand this. It's the gospel. But he goes on, and he actually is answering a specific question here. And the question that was going on in the church was, well, people were talking about the resurrection of the dead. And some people were saying, I like the church. I like the teachings of Christ. I don't know if I believe in the resurrection of the dead. And there is a big faction of Judaism that didn't believe that the dead would ever rise. There was another part that believed that they did, that there was some form of afterlife. I think most of them did. The Pharisees all believed in the resurrection of the dead. Now this is not just heaven we're talking about. We're talking about a physical body that is going to rise at the end, at the second coming. When the trumpet blows, it says at the end of this chapter, and we will all have these new bodies. New bodies, very similar to the one that Jesus had when he resurrected. So they, in the city of Corinth, didn't many people didn't believe in the resurrection. And so the resurrection, not of Jesus necessarily, but of us. And he's saying, look, if there's no resurrection of people, then there was no resurrection of Jesus. And if there was no resurrection of Jesus, then there's no resurrection of us. And so he's saying there will be a resurrection of us in the same way that there was the resurrection of Jesus. And if it weren't true, then what is all this about? Why have I been basically giving up my life constantly You know, why have I been putting myself in danger if there's not some sort of eternal goal? You know, it wouldn't make sense. He says, if this is all there is, why wouldn't you just eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you die? And he's saying that's not it at all. He's saying we live this life not for this life, but for the life to come. And he's like, that's why I go all around the world preaching the gospel, because someday we're going to have bodies that live forever, and they're not like these bodies. And so that's kind of a separate sub question that they have with this question. And that question is, what are these bodies like? And so he kind of goes off and he's like, you know, this body is kind of like a seed for the next body. And he's saying there's all different types of body. But it sounds like when I read it, that he's saying we have this body and it's a perishable body. It is a worldly, dying body. It is a mortal body. And he said the body that we will be getting is immortal. It'll live forever. You know, it can't be destroyed. And he's also saying, as I read it, I see it meaning that the body we have here is mostly physical. Now, we know as Christians that we are spirits living in a physical body. You know, and we kind of see the spiritual side as this mysterious thing that we don't understand. But the physical, we totally understand. It's hard for us to even imagine the spiritual, even though we know that it exists. But our immortal bodies, I believe, are going to be primarily spirit. And it's going to have physicality to it. It's going to be spiritual first, physical second. You know, and when I look at the body that Jesus had, I mean, it was physical. You know, they could see the spots in his hand. He was eating fish. You know, after Jesus resurrected, he could do these things, but he could also appear and disappear. He could go, you know, I don't know. This is just my guess, okay? This is Andy giving his opinion. But it doesn't appear that Jesus was bound by space and time and matter when he was resurrected. He had a physical body, like I said. He was eating. He appeared to people. But he was different. He was alike enough for you to understand that it was him, but it was different enough that he was doing things that he wasn't doing before. He ascended, for one, you know. So it makes me wonder if our resurrected body will also be able to ascend. I wonder if we, and this is going off the deep end a little bit, but you know, I wonder, you know, in this mortal body, we cannot survive in space. But I wonder if in our resurrected body, if we can. Just a thought. Anyways, it says we need this mortal body, you know, must go away so that we can attain the immortal. And you know, he says, he kind of ends the same way he begins. He says this so we should continue to spread the gospel, you know, because we have this hope, because we can spread this gospel to the people that we love. Anyways, that's 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Have a great day. Bye.